Hello and welcome to STEM with Mr. N, where every week I perform different demonstrations and explain the science behind what we're seeing. This week's project is going to end with a tasty treat as I explore the science of popcorn. Let's check it out. Popcorn isn't just a tasty treat, it's also really fun to watch it bouncing around inside the pot as it's being made. But what is it that makes the popcorn bounce around in the pot, make that popping noise and burst out and change shape? Well, I'm going to answer these questions this week as I prepare popcorn in 3 different ways. If you are going to do these at home, you will need adult supervision for all of the different ways of preparing popcorn. So in front of me I've got 3 bowls. In this bowl, I have 30 popcorn kernels, which I'm not going to do anything with just now. In the middle on the chopping board, which will be going into bowl 2, I've got 30 popcorn kernels, and I'm going to tell you in a minute what I'll be doing with them. And in bowl number 3, I have 30 popcorn kernels that we are going to prepare in the oven. So I'm going to start with popcorn kernels in bowl number 3. The first thing I'm going to do is turn my oven on. If you're doing this at home, you want your oven to be at 175 degrees or 150 degrees if you're using a fan oven, which I am. Once the oven is at temperature, using an oven glove, I'm going to put the bowl of popcorn kernels into the middle of the oven, shut the oven door, and I'm now going to leave them for 30 minutes. While I'm waiting for the popcorn from bowl number 3 to be finished in the oven, I'm going to prepare the popcorn for bowl number 2. For this, I've got a chopping board and I've got a sharp knife. What I'm going to do is I'm going to crack open the shell of each popcorn kernel using the point of the knife. I don't want to split the kernel into 2 bits, I just want to put a crack in the end. This is easiest done by using the sharp point on the white end of the kernel because it is the softer end. As I cut each one, I'm going to put them in the bowl out of the way so I know which ones have been done. Now I'm going to go back to looking at bowl number 3, which has had 30 minutes in the oven by now. So what I'm going to do is open up the oven, and again using an oven glove, I'm going to take that bowl of popcorn kernels out. They should be quite a dark brown colour, but none of them should have popped out into popcorn yet. I'm going to leave these sitting to the side until they have cooled down and are back to room temperature. Now I've got 30 untouched popcorn kernels in bowl number 1, 30 kernels with a cut in the end in bowl number 2, and 30 kernels that have been preheated in the oven in bowl number 3. So now it's time to get my pot ready to cook my popcorn. To prepare the popcorn, I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of vegetable oil into a pot, and I'm going to turn the cooker on to a high heat. Into the pot I'm going to put in 3 popcorn kernels, not from any of the bowls, these are just straight out of the bag. When these pop, it will show me that the oil in the pot is at temperature, ready for making popcorn. Once all 3 of these popcorn kernels have popped, I'm going to take them out with a spoon and turn the heat down to medium. I'm going to do this step with 3 popcorn kernels in between each set of popcorn that I'm trying to make, just to make sure that the pot is hot enough for each type of popcorn. So I'm going to start with the untouched kernels in bowl number 1. I'm going to take the lid off the pot, tip in the kernels from bowl number 1 and start a timer to see how long it takes for these kernels to pop. I've now stopped the timer and you can see how long it took for all of these popcorn kernels to pop. I'm going to spoon them out and put them back into their bowl. I'm now going to use the popcorn kernels from bowl number 2. These are the ones that I used a knife to put a cut in the end of the kernel. Again, I'm going to take the lid off the pot, pour in these kernels, put the lid back on and start the timer to see how long it takes for these kernels to pop. You'll notice that I keep my lid slightly off to the side. This is to allow steam to escape from inside the pot. Now that I've stopped the timer, you'll notice these ones had about twice as long as the first set to sit there and make sure that all the popcorn kernels have popped. I'm now going to spoon those ones out and put them back into their bowl. And now I'm going to move on to the kernels in bowl number 3. These are the ones that were preheated in the oven. So again, I'm going to take the lid off, tip in the kernels, place the lid back on slightly off the edge of the pot to let steam out, and start the timer. These ones are actually starting to go very black the longer that time goes on, and not many of the kernels are popping. Now that I've stopped the timer, you'll notice that these ones have had much longer than the other two. We will find out why shortly when I look at all 3 of them side by side. But for now, I'm going to spoon them out and put them back into their bowl. So now that I've prepared my popcorn in 3 different ways, let's see which way gave me the biggest, fluffiest bits of popcorn. I'm going to start with the kernels that we did nothing with other than take out the bag and put from the bowl straight into the pot. You'll see that bowl number 1 has given us big fluffy bits of popcorn like you would normally expect to get in a bag of popcorn. So now I'm going to look at bowl number 2. These are the ones where I put a cut in the end of the popcorn to break open the popcorn kernel. So let's see what type of popcorn we get from that one. And you'll notice that with bowl number 2, the popcorn is much smaller and it's also quite black from getting a bit burnt in the pot, but I'll explain why in a wee minute. And now we're going to look at bowl number 3, which is a popcorn that was prepared for half an hour in the oven before it was brought out and cooled to then be heated up again in the pot. And you'll notice from bowl number 3, the popcorn is still very small. It's not much bigger than it was when it was a normal kernel, and it is very black because it has got very burnt in the pot. So what is it that causes such a big difference in these 3 different ways of preparing popcorn? Well, a popcorn kernel is made up of about 14% water, and it also has starch inside, which is used by the plant as food when it is growing. The shell of a popcorn kernel isn't very porous. It doesn't let a lot of air escape from inside the shell. When we heat up the kernels that we've done nothing to, that 14% water turns to steam. That steam builds up pressure inside the shell because it cannot escape fast enough. This pressure leads to the shell exploding and the starch puffs out, and that's what creates the big fluffy bits of popcorn. With the ones from bowl number 2, where I'd put a cut in the end of all of the kernels, this means there is another hole for the steam to escape through. That means there is less pressure built up inside the shell, so it doesn't pop and explode the same way as the first set did. With the third set of popcorn kernels that I'd put in the oven, because they're not being heated to a temperature that is high enough to make popcorn pop, what happens is the water slowly turns to steam. And although the shell isn't very porous, it will let some air out. Because this was done slowly over a 30-minute period, a lot of the water has turned to steam and escaped from inside the popcorn kernel. This means there isn't the pressure there to build up and pop the kernel, and with the length of time they were in the pot for, that is why they have then gone black. Well, that's all for this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. As always, I would like to take this opportunity to answer any science questions you have about any science topics at all. So feel free to email me at stemwithmrn@outlook.com and I'll get back to you with answers to your questions. You can subscribe to the channel by pushing the button here, and I've added links here to the other STEM demonstrations I've done so far. This has been STEM with Mr. N, exploring the science of popcorn.